The Last of Us is one of the best shows in the last few years, making its return to the small screen. With 2 years having passed since Season 1 wrapped up, we thought many fans might need a refresher. Here's everything you need to remember about Season 1 before watching Season 2. Our story kicks off in 1968, where 2 medical experts speculate about the possibility of a mutated fungus adapting to survive in human hosts. If such a mutation were to occur, the human race would have little chance of stopping a pandemic. The results would be truly catastrophic. The show's hosts seem skeptical, chuckling along with the audience, because, let's face it, people prefer to ignore uncomfortable truths. We find comfort in ignorance. But oh boy, maybe we should have paid attention. Fast forward to 2003, and everything appears normal, bright, and peaceful. It's Joel's birthday, and his daughter Sarah wants to make him a special breakfast. However, since Joel doesn't really care about his birthday, he forgot to pick up pancake mix, and the same goes for his birthday cake. Insignificant detail, but one that highlights how little he values himself. From his conversation with his brother, we see that Joel is a hardworking man, but one who barely makes time for his family despite loving them deeply. As they drive off, a bumper sticker on the car hints at Joel's past. He's a combat veteran. Then comes a subtle but eerie moment. While Sarah is focused on her schoolwork, she's distracted by light reflecting off a classmate's twitching hand, a small but telling sign of infection. After school, she visits her elderly neighbor, being the kind and thoughtful person she is. As she browses a DVD shelf, something unsettling happens in the background. The old wheelchair-bound woman starts convulsing, her body twisting unnaturally. By the time Sarah turns around, she's still again. The dog, however, senses something is very wrong, because for some reason, dogs always know. That night, Sarah gives her dad a birthday present, his favorite watch, which she had repaired. Their banter feels effortless, their bond genuine. Later, Joel gets a call from Tommy, who needs to be bailed out of jail. So, he tucks Sarah into bed before heading out. She wakes up abruptly to the sound of helicopters flying overhead. Panic sets in when she realizes Joel isn't home. Then, the neighbor's dog comes scratching at her door, practically begging her not to go inside the house. But curiosity gets the better of her. Inside, she discovers a horrific scene. One neighbor lies lifeless in the kitchen, another is dead, and the once immobile old woman is now feral, feasting on human flesh. Joel returns just in time to deal with the situation using a trusty wrench. They waste no time escaping, desperately searching for a safe way out. As expected in situations like this, every road is blocked. Their only option is to cut through a nearby town, and what follows is pure chaos. The scale of destruction is breathtaking. Just look at that plane crash. One of the most jaw-dropping moments ever seen on TV. Joel, Sarah, and Tommy manage to survive but are separated when a police car crashes into their vehicle. As Joel carries Sarah, they're pursued by an infected person, only to be saved by a soldier who quickly turns his gun on them. Then comes the dreaded moment. The soldier gets a radio order to eliminate them, no questions asked. Just as he prepares to pull the trigger, Tommy arrives just in time to intervene. But it's too late. Sarah is mortally wounded. We then jump ahead 20 years to a bleak and broken world. A lone child stumbles toward the gates of Boston, collapsing just before reaching safety. The guards take her to the medical ward, where a scan confirms she's infected. But instead of revealing the truth, a kind nurse reassures her, saying she's safe now. Meanwhile, Joel is given the grim task of tossing bodies into a fire. His lack of reaction suggests he's done this before, probably more times than he'd care to admit. This gated community is run by a military organization called the Federal Disaster Response Agency, or FEDRA. They enforce strict rules and curfews, claiming it's all for safety. But whether that's true is up for debate. Rebels who defy FEDRA are publicly executed to discourage resistance. But not everyone is deterred. Take Joel, for example. He's running a smuggling operation, trading drugs with guards in exchange for food rations. Meanwhile, his partner, Tess, is caught up in a tense negotiation with some people who scammed her over a car battery. Just as things come to a head, the entire building suddenly erupts in an explosion, leaving Tess dazed and disoriented. Outside, she takes cover as rebels clash with Fedra forces. When she's arrested, she frantically insists that she isn't a Firefly, the name these rebels have given themselves. We then cut to another character, bound to a radiator, Ellie. The Fireflies are holding her prisoner for reasons unknown, running daily tests to ensure she's not infected or losing her mind. Only their leader, Marlene, knows why Ellie is here. Before revealing her plan, Marlene confides in her most trusted soldier. She then visits Ellie and tells her that she's known her since birth, even sending her to military school to keep her safe. Now, Ellie is about to learn why she's so important, and why she must remain in captivity for the time being. Meanwhile, Joel and Tess track down the person who double-crossed them on the car battery deal. They soon discover that Marlene intended to use the battery to transport Ellie to another Firefly camp. But now that Marlene is too injured to travel, she strikes a new deal. If Joel and Tess can take Ellie there, they'll be rewarded with a working car. And why do they need a car? Well, earlier, we saw Joel bartering for the location of the radio tower where Tommy last sent a message from. Joel hasn't heard from him in weeks, and he's determined to find out if his brother is okay. Ellie isn't thrilled about traveling with Joel. He's an unfamiliar middle-aged man with a mustache. And Joel isn't keen on babysitting Ellie either. She's got an attitude. As they sneak out of town, they're spotted by the same Fedra guard Joel often trades with. But instead of letting them pass, the guard decides to follow protocol, scanning them for infection. Ellie panics as the scanner moves toward her, then suddenly stabs the guard in the leg. Joel tackles the man to the ground and starts beating him senseless. You know, whacking him in the face until he stops moving. Ellie and Joel share a look that basically says, "What the F just happened?" Then we get a major reveal: Ellie is infected. They now have two choices: run and continue their mission, knowing Ellie could turn into a fungus-covered zombie at any moment, or go back inside and risk public execution for breaking the rules. The first option sounds a lot more fun, so they bolt into the city, setting off on a new adventure. The scene flashes back to before the outbreak. A seemingly ordinary woman enjoys her lunch when the military suddenly intervenes. They assure her she isn't under arrest, but she must come with them. Why? Because she's no ordinary woman. She's a professor of mycology, a specialist in fungi. They present her with a fungus sample, but she insists that this strain couldn't have come from a human. Then, they show her proof, a recently deceased body. When she pulls out a piece of the infected tissue, confirming the impossible, she immediately wants out. A military general asks how to stop the fungus from spreading. Her answer is chilling. There is no stopping it. The only way to contain it is to bomb the entire city, wiping out everyone inside. And they must do it immediately. The dread in her voice made the horror feel real. Back in the present, Ellie wakes up, realizing she's been watched closely to make sure she doesn't turn. Once it's clear she's safe, Tess demands answers. Why is Ellie being treated like royalty, getting chicken sandwiches while she and Joel are stuck eating beef jerky? And more importantly, why should they risk their lives to deliver her to the Fireflies? Ellie, being Ellie, asks for a gun, because of course she does. She's hilarious. As they journey through the city, we learn just how sheltered Ellie has been. She's grown up behind walls, away from the infected. But despite her inexperience, she's no pushover. She is as untamed as she is youthful. One moment, she's being sarcastic. The next, she's goofing off like the kid she is. But then, fear creeps in, and we see her vulnerability. Looking out from a rooftop, they see a massive horde of infected, all twitching in sync as they rest. This is where we learn something terrifying. These creatures share a hive mind. Their fungal roots spread underground, meaning if you step on one, miles away, every infected in the area will immediately know your location. Tess explains this grim reality and reminds Ellie that just because she's immune, she's not invincible. These things can still tear her apart. Next up, they must pass through a museum covered in old, dried fungal growth. Joel assumes all the zombies inside are dead. Big mistake. The climb up the stairs is tense. Every step feels like it could trigger disaster. Inside, they encounter horrifying creatures known as clickers, blind infected that hunt by sound, clicking and screeching in the most unsettling way possible. Ellie takes one nervous breath too loud, and, well, let's just say it's a good thing headshots still work in this world. After barely surviving, Tess insists they press on before nightfall. When they reach the meeting point, it's empty, but a trail of blood leads them to a nearby building, where they make a grim discovery: everyone is dead. Joel sees no reason to stick around, but Tess isn't ready to give up. That's when she reveals the truth: she's been bitten. Her desperation to complete this mission suddenly makes sense. This was her last shot at helping find a cure. She urges Joel to take Ellie to the next Firefly outpost. They might still have a chance, if they can get help from Bill and Frank, two men they know. But Joel isn't sold on the idea. In the middle of their heated exchange, one of the infected suddenly stirs, prompting Joel to take it down. Unfortunately, the infected guy collapses onto a patch of mushroom residue, triggering a chain reaction. Joel rushes outside just in time to hear the distant cries of approaching infected, signaling that their time is running out. Tess buys them a head start by dousing the place in gasoline and scattering grenades, ready to make the ultimate sacrifice when the moment arrives. As she struggles to get the lighter to ignite, we get this unsettling shot of fungal tendrils spreading from the infected's mouth into hers. Joel, hardened by loss, bottles up his emotions, while Ellie, who had started forming a bond with her, visibly struggles to hold back tears. TV at its finest. Joel keeps his emotional and physical distance from Ellie, and she's growing frustrated with him shutting her out since Tessa's death. They slowly start to break the ice, swapping stories along the way. Ellie once again asks for a gun, but Joel refuses. The banter between them is top tier, really drawing you into their growing dynamic. They stop at a stash point where Joel has hidden supplies, and Ellie gets hyped over spotting a Mortal Kombat arcade machine because she loves violence. Then she gets equally excited about finding tampons because, well, sometimes she doesn't love blood. Later, Joel and Ellie come across some unsettling skeletons. The scene transitions to a time when those skeletons were still living, showing civilians being evacuated from their town. One man, however, refuses to leave, watching everything unfold through his CCTV setup. He waits until the town is empty before stepping out to claim it as his own. What follows is a fascinating montage of him gathering supplies and fortifying his home, showcasing his skill in self-sufficiency. This is basically every doomsday prepper's dream scenario. This man's name is Bill. While enjoying a gourmet meal, an alert goes off. Something has triggered one of his traps. When he investigates, he finds a man stuck in a pit, introducing himself as Frank and explaining that he's heading toward Boston. Frank politely asks for a meal before continuing on his way. Bill hesitates but eventually agrees, even letting him take a hot shower and change into fresh clothes. When dinner is served, instead of tossing him a can of beans and sending him on his way, Bill prepares an elegant meal. Frank quickly makes himself at home, even asking if he can play the piano. He picks a song that stirs something deep in Bill, who takes over to play it himself. When Frank asks who the lucky girl was, Bill admits there was no girl. What follows is a beautifully developed love story, spanning years as they settle into a life together, bickering like any married couple. Midway through, we see how Bill and Frank eventually meet Joel and Tess. Frank, eager to connect with others, reaches out over the radio, breaking Bill's strict no-contact rule. While Frank happily chats with Tess about trade opportunities, Bill remains wary of these outsiders. The rest of their lives play out, gardening together, surviving raids, and, in the end, choosing to leave this world on their own terms. Frank, suffering from cancer, decides he's had enough, and Bill refuses to live without him. Their final moments together are bittersweet and heartbreaking. Jumping back to the present, Joel and Ellie discover a letter Bill left behind, explaining that he and Frank are gone and that Joel is welcome to take whatever supplies he needs. Before they head out, Ellie secretly stashes a gun in her bag, making sure Joel doesn't see it. While demonstrating how to siphon gas, Joel warns Ellie not to wander off. Bored, she pulls out a joke book and starts reading puns aloud. Joel isn't ready to laugh just yet, but keep at it, Ellie, You'll crack him eventually. Their next stop is the place where Joel believes his brother might be. Along the way, Ellie stumbles upon a raunchy magazine and has some fun teasing Joel about it. That night, they set up camp and eat Chef Boyardee. The next morning, Ellie grimaces at the taste of coffee and roasts Joel for drinking it. As they drive through Kansas City, they get ambushed by a group of men pretending to need help. When Joel refuses to stop, the attackers throw down tire spikes, forcing the truck to crash. Joel orders Ellie to take cover while he deals with the would-be looters. Just when he thinks the fight is over, a younger guy, Brian, gets the jump on him, nearly choking him out. Ellie senses it's finally time to use the gun she secretly stashed. Joel asks Ellie to go out of sight, then kills the boy despite him pleading for mercy. This scene makes Joel seem like a jerk, but then again, the boy tried to kill him. We then see the leader of Brian's group, Sally, interrogating some guy, trying to track down those who report to Fedra about her rebellion. That's the gist of it. She's after one informant in particular, a guy named Henry. Back with Ellie and Joel, they're laying low until the coast is clear. Joel acknowledges that witnessing death up close might be new for her, and that's a heavy thing for a kid to process. But when Ellie reveals this wasn't her first time shooting someone, Joel decides it's time to officially give her a gun, and more importantly, teach her how to use it. They find a building to camp out in overnight, and Ellie makes another attempt to get Joel to lighten up with a classic pun. It's a sweet moment. What's not sweet, though, is waking up to a gun in your face. Also, earlier, Sally and her crew discovered a horde of infected struggling to break through the floor. In a flashback, we see Henry and his deaf brother, Sam, hiding from Sally. They're holed up in a loft, desperately hoping for a chance to escape, but their dwindling food supply adds to the urgency. While making their way out, they run into Joel and Ellie. Henry holds them at gunpoint, but Ellie quickly picks up on the fear in his eyes. He's not looking for trouble. Meanwhile, Joel treats him like just another random threat. Henry explains that Fedra forced all the infected underground and, based on what he's heard, they should all be dead by now. Yeah, might want to double check that, buddy. Still, just in case he's wrong, which of course he is, he proposes a deal. They team up. Henry knows the rebels' scouting routes and schedules, so he shows the way and Joel clears the way, as he put it. Together, they stand a better chance of getting out. Surprisingly, they don't run into any infected while navigating the underground tunnels. Guess they're all just hanging out in big groups, waiting for the perfect moment to burst out like a zit. During this downtime, Ellie and Sam bond over comics, while Joel and Henry bond over their shared guilt for past actions. It's a nice moment, but not the most exciting one. What is exciting, though, is when they finally reach the city outskirts, only to get sniped at by some guy who has the aim of a stormtrooper. Joel takes him out, but not before he manages to radio backup. And now, a whole crew is steamrolling their way toward them. Then, Joel lands a clean sniper shot just in time to stop Ellie from becoming pavement art. The group pins them down, demanding Henry shows up, or they will spare no one. Henry eventually reveals himself, and just as Sally is about to execute him, bam! A horde of infected bursts from the ground. And introducing the gym rat of mushroom zombies. They are tanking bullets like they're breath mints, and it casually rips a guy's head clean off. Meanwhile, Sally gets swarmed by a smaller infected, and the rest of our crew appears to escape safely. But hang on, Sam is bit, knowing he's doomed, has one final question on his mind. He wants to know if he'll still be himself when he turns. So sad. Ellie takes the gentler approach. She tries to convince him that her immune blood might be able to save him. I don't think she fully believes it herself, but she's desperate to give him hope. She promises to stay awake with him, but she dozes off, only to wake up and see that he's turned. Henry, in a state of confusion, shoots Sam, overwhelmed with guilt, unable to bring himself to go on without his brother. So he takes the easy way out. Joel and Ellie give them a proper sending off. The scene transitioned to a cabin-dwelling couple. Turns out, Joel had been waiting for the husband to come home, hoping to get directions. Hilariously and charmingly, the wife is immediately chill about the whole thing. Their dynamic is so authentic you'd think they are a real-life couple. Joel isn't looking for trouble. He just needs guidance to keep moving west. But the couple warns him that no one survives beyond the river. Hearing this grim news triggers Joel's PTSD, which he tries to play off as the cold air hitting his lungs. As they continue their journey, Joel and Ellie bond over northern lights, only to get ambushed by some Red Dead Redemption cosplayers. Their secret weapon? A sniffer dog that can apparently detect infection. After a brief standoff, the dog succumbs to Ellie's charms, much to Joel's relief. One of the women in the group gives Joel a suspicious look when he mentions his brother. Sensing familiarity, they take him and Ellie to their settlement. And boom, Tommy. While Joel was barely scraping by under Fedra's rule, Tommy's been living the dream in what basically looks like a utopia. Though, for some reason, he's uncomfortable with calling their community-led society communism. Everything in this town is shared, collectively owned. So, communism? They trade semantics over the term. While Tommy's wife introduces Ellie to the horses, Joel and Tommy catch up over drinks at the town's bar. Tommy thanks him for still giving a damn about him. It starts off as a pleasant reunion, but then Joel assumes Tommy will be joining him to finish the mission. But Tommy drops a bombshell. He's going to be a dad. He believes the responsible thing to do is stay here and contribute to the community. Naturally, Joel feels a bit abandoned. Tommy says his life doesn't have to stop just because his stopped. Later, Tommy visits Joel, hoping to patch things up. That's when Joel finally opens up about his fears, his own inadequacy in keeping Ellie safe. Which, to be fair, he's done a solid job of so far. He then shares the big secret: Ellie has the fungus, but she's immune. And with that revelation, he asks Tommy to reconsider taking her, now that he knows the endgame is a cure. Tommy sighs but agrees, saying it would be cool to kinda save the world. Ellie does not take this news well. To make the separation easier, Joel tries to convince her that he doesn't care about her that much. But by morning, after sleeping on it, he realizes Ellie deserves to choose for herself, telling her she deserves a choice in the matter. "I still think you'd be better off with Tommy. Let's go." Ellie wastes no time. Her trust and bond with Joel outweigh the fact that Tommy is technically the better option. They arrive at the Firefly camp, only to find it completely abandoned, except for some monkeys. Ellie is fascinated as usual, as she is with any animal, being that is her first time coming into contact with these creatures. While searching the building for clues on where to go next, they spot raiders outside. They attempt to slip away unnoticed, but no luck. They get spotted. Joel takes one of them down, but not before realizing he's been stabbed with a broken bat. They ride off in a hurry, desperately searching for a safe place to regroup. Joel doesn't make it that far. His body gives out before they find shelter, but sheer willpower keeps him hanging on while Ellie panics over their situation. "You gotta get up, Joel." She cries out desperately. For a hospital bed, he's making do with an old, dirty mattress. Ellie, with no medical training whatsoever and still just a kid, does her best to keep him alive. Joel tells her to leave him behind. But Ellie? She's too good a friend for that. Thinking about friendships takes us back in time, to when Ellie was in military school. She gets into a fight, and her superior gives her the usual lecture: "You're too smart and too strong for this." You know, the standard pep talk. Next, Riley sneaks back into the academy. She drops some big news: she's joined the Fireflies. Which, to Ellie, is a massive betrayal. Riley extends an offer: "Come with me, and I'll give you the best night of your life." And since they're best friends, and also clearly into each other, Ellie agrees to sneak out. They stumble across a dead guy who overdosed on booze and pills. Naturally, they take the booze to enhance their night. Riley has a lineup of surprises for Ellie, starting with something she's never experienced before: a shopping mall. Then a whole list of firsts: escalators, a carousel, a photo booth, and best of all, an arcade. This is where we learn the root of Ellie's love for Mortal Kombat. The whole time, they keep exchanging awkward, flirtatious glances. Ellie is too shy to make a move, and Riley, for some reason, refuses to acknowledge the very obvious mutual attraction. Meanwhile, the camera ominously shifts to a store where a mushroom zombie stirs awake, drawn by the noise and excitement of the arcade. Ellie eventually finds some bombs Riley has been guarding, and it becomes clear Riley isn't just here for fun. She's been stationed here by the Fireflies. Ellie feels like she was lied to. As she storms off, Riley confesses she's leaving soon. She's being reassigned far away, and tonight was her way of saying goodbye. Ellie is furious, but as she heads for the door, she stops. She realizes Riley was just being a good friend. She turns back to make amends, only to hear screaming. She bolts toward the noise, only to find it's just a Halloween decoration, triggered by Riley. They laugh and make up, and Ellie sweetly begs her to stay and run away with her. That heartfelt moment? Interrupted. Mushroom Zombie has finally entered the chat. A frantic fight breaks out. Point one that feels real. The girls manage to take the infected down, but at a cost. They've both been bitten. They weigh their options, take themselves out on their own terms, or wait for the infection to take over. Either way, they know this is the end of their relationship. About 30 minutes after it began, the scene transitioned to the present. We don't get to see which option they chose, as it cuts back to Ellie, who now feels a surge of urgency to prevent another friend from dying. She grabs a needle and thread and quickly stitches up Joel's wound. We are transitioned to this guy addressing his group. He appears to be a man of faith, reading Bible passages to offer hope to his followers, who all look completely miserable. Joel's wound is now infected, so Ellie ventures out in desperation to find medical supplies. She comes across a deer, which could at least provide some food. Before she can claim her prize, the pastor and his subordinate get to it first, scanning the area to see who took the shot. The pastor, named David, points out that there's no way Ellie could haul the deer back on her own. So the logical solution is to make a trade. They'll split the deer, and in return, they'll give her some penicillin. While waiting for David's guy to return with the medicine, they warm up by a fire. And David shares that he took on the role of religious leader after the world fell apart. When the guy returns, Ellie rejects David's offer to join his group, which turns out to be the right call. As we learn later, David is a full-blown psychopath. It seems like the group doesn't really have a choice under David's rule, but at least they're getting meals, though this meat seems a little questionable. Ellie injects Joel with the antibiotics so he can start healing, just in time to spot David's group out looking for her. She rushes back to beg Joel to wake up, but when he doesn't respond, she barricades him in and takes off, hoping to draw them away. Ellie wakes up locked in a cage, and David tries to manipulate her into joining them so he doesn't have to kill her. That's when she notices an ear on the floor and realizes the horrifying truth. They've been eating people to survive. David takes things in an even creepier direction, suggesting that he and Ellie could run the place together as a pair. Ellie, thinking fast, realizes that pretending to go along with him might lower his guard. Meanwhile, back at the house, Joel wakes up just enough to launch a surprise attack on one of the guys searching for him. He then captures and interrogates two more, brutally extracting the information he needs before mercilessly taking them out. Ellie bites David's hand as they pin her to the chopping block and tells them not to eat her, because she's infected. And now, so is David. In the chaos, she grabs a butcher's knife and slashes one guy's throat before making a run for it. David chases her into a restaurant, where she frantically tries to fend him off with fire. At this point, he doesn't care about survival. He just wants to hurt her in the worst way. But Ellie manages to grab a weapon and goes absolutely feral, making sure he never gets back up. She stumbles out of the burning building, only to collapse into Joel's arms, telling her he got her to calm her down. In a flashback, a pregnant woman runs through the forest, desperately trying to barricade herself inside a safe house while being pursued by a mushroom zombie. She goes into labor at the worst possible time, right as the infected bursts through the door, and fights so hard for her life that she ends up giving birth mid-struggle. She welcomes baby Ellie to the world, telling her she's so tough. But the moment is bittersweet. She's been bitten, meaning she won't get to watch her daughter grow up. Since she cut the umbilical cord immediately, it makes sense that Ellie grew up immune. Marlene arrives just in time to take Ellie to safety and grants the mother's final wish by ending her suffering before she turns. Back in the present, Joel and Ellie are on their way to a Firefly hospital. Along the way, They stumble upon a giraffe poking its head into a building. It's a rare, quiet moment, a reminder of how much nature has reclaimed the world. They continue toward their destination, pausing for a heartfelt exchange. Joel confesses that after Sarah died, he nearly gave up on life, but someone gave him a reason to keep going. Ellie immediately gets what he means. She tells him she's glad he didn't die. Then, just to shake things up, they get flash-banged. Joel wakes up to Marlene apologizing. Turns out, the people who attacked them didn't realize who they were. He demands to know where Ellie is, and Marlene informs him that she's being prepped for surgery. The plan is to extract the cordyceps from her brain to develop a cure. But there's a slight catch. The procedure will kill her. While being escorted out, Joel overpowers his guards and goes on an absolute rampage, taking down everyone in his path in search of Ellie. He finds Ellie unconscious and carries her down to the parking garage, only to be stopped by Marlene. She urges him to think about the bigger picture, about what denying the world a cure really means. But Joel knows that if he lets her live, she'll never stop hunting them. She begged vigorously for her life, but Joel being who he is, he wouldn't take any chances. Marlene didn't deserve that, not after everything she did for Ellie. But that's what makes Joel such a compelling character. He's flawed, selfish, and human. When Ellie wakes up, he lies. He tells her the Fireflies found other immune people but couldn't make a cure. And then the hospital got raided, so he had to get her out. And so, their journey continues. See you in Season 2. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more classic movie and TV recaps.